Thank you for joining with me as we continue our exploration together of A Course in Miracles. Today we will be reading a section from the text. We are in chapter 21, section 3, and we'll be practicing lesson number 43 together, and we'll be reviewing Principle of Miracles number 11. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And clicking on the text, scrolling down in the table of contents to chapter 21, Reason and Perception. And we are in section 3, Faith, Belief, and Vision. Paragraph 1. All special relationships have sin as their goal, for they're bargains with reality, toward which the seeming union is adjusted. Forget not this. To bargain is to set a limit, and any brother with whom you have a limited relationship you hate. You may attempt to keep the bargain in the name of fairness, sometimes demanding payment of yourself, perhaps more often of the other. Thus, in the fairness, you attempt to ease the guilt that comes from the accepted purpose of the relationship. And that is why the Holy Spirit must change its purpose to make it useful to Him and harmless to you. Ooh. Okay, so let's start with a reminder of the definition of sin as the Course in Miracles uses it. Sin is lovelessness, that which is unloving. All special relationships have sin, lovelessness, as their goal. A special relationship in the Course in Miracles is one based on conditions, judgment, and inherently guilt, is fueled by guilt. And so naturally, what they do when you're in a special relationship, when you want someone to behave a certain way, treat you a certain way in order for you to be happy and okay, they are the conditions, and that's what is a special relationship. So what happens is when they don't meet your needs, they forget your birthday, they don't remember to pick up the thing you asked them to pick up from the supermarket on their way home, when they say something to you that you don't like. So what secretly happens underneath that is what the Course in Miracles says quite boldly: hate. When I first came across this in the Course of Miracles, I found it quite shocking because it's not common that as human adults that we use the word hate. But here in the Course in Miracles, I think it's used to really make a stark contrast with love, with unconditional love, with holy love. So let's say your loved one says something that you don't like, or does something that you don't like, didn't expect, wasn't wanted. So now you feel that and you hold that, keep score of that, make a mental note of that. You feel it in a certain kind of way. And so when the next opportunity comes, maybe you punish them by looking away, by your attitude, by that subtle punishment that gets communicated in ways like withholding, flatness in the tone. Well, you enter into the state of unlovingness, actually. You're withholding love. And so then they feel that, and then they maybe feel bad. It could go either way, but maybe they feel bad. They've picked up on the fact that they messed up and you didn't like that. And so now you're communicating that. And so then they try to make up for it. You might want to punish them some more. But either way, the fuel of that, the basis of that is guilt. And this is what this paragraph is bringing to our attention. And the only way out of it is if one invites the Holy Spirit in to make change, to shift perception. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again. Let's continue with paragraph 2. Paragraph 2. If you accept this change, you have accepted the idea of making room for truth. The source of sin is gone. You may imagine that you still experience its effects, but it is not your purpose and you no longer want it. No one allows a purpose to be replaced while he desires it, for nothing is so cherished and protected as is a goal the mind accepts. This it will follow, grimly or happily, but always with faith and with the persistence that faith inevitably brings. The power of faith is never recognized if it is placed in sin, but it is always recognized if it is placed in love. Okay, so the change that this paragraph is referring to is shifting focus away from the judgment, away from the conditions, away from the guilt, and inviting the Holy Spirit in to share the Holy Spirit's perception. So this is the change that this is referring to. The change is the shifting of perception. And so if you accept this change, then you have accepted the idea of making room for truth. And so once you invite truth in and you share truth's vision, then what you create ultimately, in the language of the Course in Miracles, is a holy relationship. You create the conditions for a holy relationship. And so in this paragraph, it's just tying this in with faith. Faith in the Creator, that the Father, that the Holy Spirit is the source of the love. All right, so let's continue with paragraph 3. I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen again. Why is it strange to you that faith can move mountains? This is indeed a little feat for such a power. For faith can keep the Son of God in chains as long as he believes he is in chains. And when he is released from them, it will be simply because he no longer believes in them, withdrawing faith that they can hold him and placing it in his freedom instead. It is impossible to place equal faith in opposite directions. What faith you give to sin, you take away from holiness, and what you offer holiness has been removed from sin. Okay, I think that's fairly self-explanatory, so let's continue with paragraph 4. Faith and belief and vision are the means by which the goal of holiness is reached. Through them, the Holy Spirit leads you to the real world and away from all illusions where your faith was laid. This is his direction, the only one he ever sees. And when you wander, he reminds you there is but one. His faith and his belief and vision are all for you. And when you have accepted them completely instead of yours, you will have need of them no longer. For faith and vision and belief are meaningful only before the state of certainty is reached. In heaven, they are unknown, yet heaven is reached through them. Okay, so we're being introduced to faith, belief, and vision. So where we put our faith, it ties into our beliefs. Beliefs are thought systems, and that is the means through which we create our reality. If we think it's true, it is. If we think our partner is selfish, they are. If we think they don't listen, that's true. They don't. And so without a deeper inquiry, without asking to share God's vision, we will see them through the lens of judgment as opposed to seeing what's truly there. And that is that perhaps there is fear, perhaps there's an uncertainty, perhaps there is a confusion. And so what's required is to bring more love here, to bring holy vision here, to pray, to meditate, to endeavor to see a path to unconditional love as opposed to keeping the judgment thoughts. But what paragraph 3 makes me think of is the first sentence, why is it strange to you that faith can move mountains? For faith can keep the Son of God in chains as long as he believes he is in chains. And when he's released from them, it will be simply because he no longer believes in them, withdrawing faith that they can hold him and placing it in his freedom instead. And so I've noticed this with healing. It seems as though there has to be a decision made inside that healing is possible, and a decision to heal, and the faith that that can be true. And that's what creates the healing response. What happens is the mind opens, solutions come, you might try different ways or not, or the imbalance simply balances as an effect of a strong conviction. And so I've noticed this more times than once, that that does create the conditions for healing, for miracles. And so then in paragraph 4, it says, so faith and belief and vision are the means by which the goal of holiness is reached. Holiness is healing. Holiness is your wholeness. Your wholeness is healing. So faith, belief, and vision are the means by which the goal of holiness is reached. The goal of healing is reached. And through them, the Holy Spirit leads you to the real world and away from all illusions where your faith was laid. Okay, so let's continue. Let me go ahead and share the screen and we'll continue for paragraph 5. It is impossible that the Son of God lack faith, but he can choose where he would have it be. Faithlessness is not a lack of faith, but faith in nothing. Faith given to illusions does not lack power, for by it does the Son of God believe that he is powerless. Thus is he faithless to himself, but strong in faith in his illusions about himself. For faith, perception, and belief you made, as means for losing certainty and finding sin. This mad direction was your choice, and by your faith in what you chose, you made what you desired. Okay, so this is telling us that faith is a condition, it sounds like, of being a human being, a requisite of being a human being. And so we cannot be without faith, but faithlessness is having faith in nothing, or perhaps even putting our faith in that which is unloving, putting faith in sin. Okay, so let's from here continue with paragraph 6. The Holy Spirit has a use for all the means for sin by which you sought to find it, but as he uses them, they lead away from sin because his purpose lies in the opposite direction. He sees the means you use, but not the purpose for which you made them. He would not take them from you, for he sees their value as a means for what he wills for you. You made perception that you might choose among your brothers and seek for sin with them. The Holy Spirit sees perception as a means to teach you that the vision of a holy relationship is all you want to see. Then will you give your faith to holiness, desiring and believing in it because of your desire. Okay, so let's see. So in paragraph 6, the Holy Spirit lets us keep perception. So perception is a gift that we have been bestowed with. And so rather than taking away perception, what this paragraph is saying is that our perception gets redirected away from sin and to that which is holy. And so what that would look like would be instead of seeing where before you had judgment thoughts on your brothers and sisters, instead you started to see little acts of kindness, the true intent of their actions, and perhaps to start to see their vulnerability and their innocence and maybe even their fears. And so as a result of that, you start to treat them differently. And so as your perception shifts, this is how you know that the Holy Spirit has come in to help you see holiness, to help you share his vision. And that is what creates the conditions for healing, because ultimately you will treat them differently, perhaps more compassionately or with empathy or with a greater generosity or a kindness. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again, and we will be looking at chapter 7. Faith and belief become attached to vision as all the means that once served sin are redirected now toward holiness. For what you think is sin is limitation, and whom you try to limit to the body you hate because you fear. In your refusal to forgive him, you would condemn him to the body because the means for sin are dear to you, and so the body has your faith and your belief. But holiness would set your brother free, removing hatred by removing fear, not as a symptom, but at its source. Okay, so that is validating what I was sharing before about paragraph 6, in as much as that your faith, your belief attached to vision moves away from sin, lovelessness, which is judgment, and now is redirected towards holiness. When we have limitation in our vision, we see our brothers and sisters as bodies, as separate bodies. But as the vision shifts, we start to see them as who they truly are, their true essence. But I can also see how seeing one another through these separate bodies is a subtle form of protection as well. And that's why at the end of that paragraph, it talks about removing hatred by removing fear, because that's essentially what keeps us separate from one another, is the fear of one another and the seeing one another as separate. Also seeing them as potentials for either threatening us, hurting us, or meeting our needs, looking after us, taking care of us, considering us. So let's go ahead now and look at paragraph 8. Those who would free their brothers from the body can have no fear. They have renounced the means for sin by choosing to let all limitations be removed. As they desire to look upon their brothers in holiness, the power of their belief and faith sees far beyond the body, supporting vision, not obstructing it. But first they chose to recognize how much their faith had limited their understanding of the world, desiring to place its power elsewhere should another point of view be given them. The miracles that follow this decision are also born of faith, for all who choose to look away from sin are given vision and are led to holiness. Let's keep going for paragraph 9. Those who believe in sin must think the Holy Spirit asks for sacrifice, for this is how they think their purpose is accomplished. Brother, the Holy Spirit knows that sacrifice brings nothing. He makes no bargains. And if you seek to limit him, you will hate him because you are afraid. The gift that he has given you is more than anything that stands this side of heaven. The instant for its recognition is at hand. Join your awareness to what has been already joined. The faith you give your brother can accomplish this, for he who loves the world is seeing it for you without one spot of sin upon it, and in the innocence that makes the sight of it as beautiful as heaven. Let's continue for paragraph 10. Your faith in sacrifice has given it great power in your sight, except you do not realize you cannot see because of it. For sacrifice must be exacted of a body, and by another body. The mind would neither ask it nor receive it of itself, and no more could the body. The intention is in the mind, which tries to use the body to carry out the means for sin in which the mind believes. Thus is the joining of mind and body an inescapable belief of those who value sin. And so is sacrifice invariably a means for limitation, and thus for hate. Okay. So this is getting us into a pattern that a lot of people have when they love. When they love within the context of family, friends, romantic love relationships, that loving requires a sacrifice. This is a universal belief that a lot of people have. So, for example, it's when the martyr is leading the life, is leading the charge. What this is saying here is really describing the martyr, actually, because it's even saying that for sacrifice must be exacted of a body and by another body. But from the Holy Spirit's point of view, there is no such thing as sacrifice. But for example, the way it would show up is that, well, so I'll do all these things for you, even at my own expense, because this is what I think love looks like and feels like. This is what love is in action. So even though you've asked me to do something and I'm feeling a little depleted, I don't really have the time, I don't even really have the desire, but I say yes because that's what I should do in this particular context, then the underlying energy under that is guilt, actually. And it's guilt that makes us sick. It's guilt that makes us tired. And it's guilt that fuels the resentment, and then also is the answer to the resentment, because perhaps you feel that this is what you should do because you love your parents or you love this person. So this is what it's the right thing to do. But then secretly, because you are depleted, you didn't really want to, you don't really have the time, you don't really have the bandwidth. So now there's this subtle feeling of resentment that you feel uncomfortable having because you want to be the good daughter, you want to be the good son. And so then that feeds into double guilt because you feel guilty that you feel the resentment, and you feel guilty at the core because otherwise you wouldn't have agreed to this sacrifice in the first place. You wouldn't have done it if you didn't have guilt, because love is truly accepting of reality. But if you had true faith that everyone is exactly where they're meant to be, that the Holy Spirit is tending to them exactly as the Holy Spirit is tending to you too, then you won't feel that you are the one responsible for their okayness or their happiness. That you'll be able to choose yourself, love yourself, and speak from that place. And what that would look like would be, I want to help you, I love you, and can we find another time? Or I can't right now, I'll let you know. But the most important thing is taking action without guilt, taking action without obligation. That's actually true love. Because like I said, the obligation, the guilt is the recipe, is the energetic equivalent of unpeacefulness, which then manifests in the body as imbalance and then creates dis-ease, you see. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again for paragraph 11. Think you the Holy Spirit is concerned with this? He gives not what it is his purpose to lead you from. You think he would deprive you from your good, but good and deprivation are opposites and cannot meaningfully join in any way. It's like saying that the moon and sun are one because they come with night and day, and so they must be joined. Yet sight of one is but the sign the other has disappeared from sight. Nor is it possible that what gives light be one with what depends on darkness to be seen. Neither demands the sacrifice of the other, yet on the absence of the other does each depend. Let's continue for paragraph 12. The body was made to be a sacrifice to sin, and in the darkness, so it still is seen. Yet in the light of vision, it is looked upon quite differently. You can have faith in it to serve the Holy Spirit's goal, and give it power to serve as means to help the blind to see. But in their seeing, they look past it, as do you. The faith and belief you gave it belongs beyond. You gave perception and belief and faith from mind to body. Let them now be given back to what produced them, and can use them still to save itself from what it made. Okay, so this is just saying that the true function of the body is to be an instrument of an expression, an extension of divine grace, divine vision, the original holiness, our original essence. So once we see from that perspective, then we're no longer seeing individual bodies, seeing through the eyes of judgment, but rather seeing through the eyes of truth, and no longer vulnerable then to judgment, to punishment, to the bargaining, to manipulating, seeking to get our needs met. But we will have realized our own holiness first, married mind with body. And so therefore, if we realize the truth of our own holiness, then we can extend that to our brothers and our sisters. Okay, so let's go back to share the screen again, and we're going to now practice our lesson together. And we are at lesson 43. And so I'm going to have the narrator read the lesson for us.
Lesson 43. God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. Perception is not an attribute of God. His is the realm of knowledge. Yet he has created the Holy Spirit as the mediator between perception and knowledge. Without this link with God, perception would have replaced knowledge forever in your mind. With this link with God, perception will become so changed and purified that it will lead to knowledge. That is its function as the Holy Spirit sees it. Therefore, that is its function in truth. In God, you cannot see. Perception has no function in God and does not exist. Yet in salvation, which is the undoing of what never was, perception has a mighty purpose. Made by the Son of God for an unholy purpose, it must become the means for the restoration of his holiness to his awareness. Perception has no meaning. Yet does the Holy Spirit give it a meaning very close to God's. Healed perception becomes the means by which the Son of God forgives his brother and thus forgives himself. You cannot see apart from God because you cannot be apart from God. Whatever you do in him, because whatever you think with his mind. If vision is real, and it is real to the extent to which it shares the Holy Spirit's purpose, then you cannot see apart from God. 3 5-minute practice periods are required today, one as early and one as late as possible in the day. The third may be undertaken at the most convenient and suitable time that circumstances and readiness permit. At the beginning of these practice periods, repeat the idea for today to yourself with eyes open. Then glance around you for a short time, applying the idea specifically to what you see. 4 or 5 subjects for this phase of the practice period are sufficient. You might say, for example, God is my source. I cannot see this desk apart from him. God is my source. I cannot see that picture apart from him. Although this part of the exercise period should be relatively short, be sure that you select the subjects for this phase of practice indiscriminately without self-directed inclusion or exclusion. For the second and longer phase, close your eyes, repeat today's idea again, and then let whatever relevant thoughts occur to you add to the idea in your own personal way. Thoughts such as, I see through the eyes of forgiveness. I see the world as blessed. The world can show me myself. I see my own thoughts, which are like God's. Any thought related more or less directly to today's idea is suitable. The thoughts need not bear any obvious relationship to the idea, but they should not be in opposition to it. If you find your mind wandering, if you begin to be aware of thoughts which are clearly out of accord with today's idea, or if you seem to be unable to think of anything, open your eyes, repeat the first phase of the exercise period, and then attempt the second phase again. Do not allow any protracted period to occur in which you become preoccupied with irrelevant thoughts. Return to the first phase of the exercises as often as necessary to prevent this. In applying today's idea in the shorter practice periods, the form may vary according to the circumstances and situations in which you find yourself during the day. When you are with someone else, for example, try to remember to tell him silently, "God is my source. I cannot see you apart from him." This form is equally applicable to strangers as it is to those you think are closer to you. In fact, try not to make distinctions of this kind at all. Today's idea should also be applied throughout the day to various situations and events that may occur, particularly to those which seem to distress you in any way. For this purpose, apply the idea in this form. God is my source. I cannot see this apart from him. If no particular subject presents itself to your awareness at the time, merely repeat the idea in its original form. Try today not to allow any long periods of time to slip by without remembering today's idea and thus remembering your function.
Okay, wonderful. It fits perfectly in with our reading from the text about perceptions. So I realized that what I offered about perception as a bestowal isn't true. It seems to be an effect of the belief of separation, a means to see the world. And so the Holy Spirit uses that to refocus the periscope onto that which is true, at least. And so this lesson shows that. Okay, so the task for today is 3 longer practice periods, one as early in the morning as possible, one as late into the evening as possible before you go to bed, of 5 minutes, starting with eyes open. You glance around, repeating, "God is my source. I cannot see," whatever your eyes land on. The example given is this desk. I cannot see this desk apart from him. Look, continuing to look around the room. God is my source. I cannot see that picture apart from him. Then closing your eyes and repeat today's idea again. God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. And then allow other thoughts to bubble up. And the examples that were given were, I see through the eyes of forgiveness. I see the world as blessed. The world can show me myself. I see my thoughts, which are like God's. So for our purposes, we're going to practice together for 5 minutes, again, beginning with eyes open and then closing your eyes to have a deeper experience with today's idea. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again. Before I do that, though, just remember that this is a mini meditation. It's an active meditation. So as always, before we begin, just start to bring your attention away from out there and just start to coax your attention to what's right here, as the body sitting, your heart beating, breathing, blood pumping, the unconditional support of the floor, the incredible unconditional loving support of Mother Earth, and just start to relax into it. Perhaps as you relax into it, the breath naturally gets a little bit longer and a little bit deeper, which is lovely. And so, okay, so I think you're sufficiently prepared. Maybe take 3 conscious, naturally healing breaths. Today's idea again is God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. I'm going to share the screen so that you can see the language. Let's see. Okay, I think I can do it that way. All right. I'm going to start the timer now. God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. And then God is my source. I cannot see this lamp apart from him. And then closing your eyes and just see what ideas come up. Repeating to yourself, God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. Seeing what comes. And if your mind goes blank, you can open your eyes again, looking around the room. God is my source. I cannot see this picture apart from him. And you can close your eyes again, repeating today's idea. God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. And then let whatever thoughts occur to you come to mind. And there goes our timer. And so the other practice periods, the shorter practice periods for the day, are to use the idea throughout the day with anyone that you meet. And so let me just share this again with you. And so as you meet people, as you are going about your day, in your mind, you can say, God is my source. I cannot see you apart from him. So you're offering this little blessing as you go about your day. And then if something arises that is stressful, then you can remind yourself, God is my source. I cannot see this apart from him. All right, very good. So from here, we're now going to review a principle of miracles. So I'm going back to share again. Sorry, back and forth. Clicking on the text, the meaning of miracles in chapter 1, the principle of miracles in section 1, and we're scrolling down to principle number 11. And what I like to say is take a screenshot of the principle and use it as a means of contemplation for the day, or until next time, until the next video. So here we are with number 11. Prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the created with the creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. Beautiful. And so this is an invitation to come back to our prayer practice, that on the wings of our prayer, love is conveyed and love is received, and miracles as love take place. Okay, so this concludes today's video. As always, feel free to share in the comments your experience of the lessons, any questions about the text or any other realizations, or where you feel like my interpretation wasn't the same as yours. Feel free to share. And just a reminder also that on the third Tuesday of the month, I offer a mindfulness-based meditation class. And then on the fourth Monday of the month is the meditation and natural healing self-help class. And so both of those can be joined virtually. You can find the registration links on the website, www.alilacenter.org. I would love to see you. It's contribution based, so there's a range. Feel free to join us though. And let's see, I think that's all I wanted to share. So have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.